Good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is Todd Banks. I'm the Executive Director here at the Sherwood Park and District Chamber of Commerce, and we're here to celebrate International Women's Day. The Sherwood Park and District Chamber of Commerce respectfully acknowledges we are located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional land of Indigenous peoples that have lived and thrived in this place, including the Blackfoot, Gros Ventre, Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and later the Métis. It's now my privilege to introduce our president, Daryl Popick of the Sherwood Park and District Chamber of Commerce. Daryl, please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Todd. As Todd mentioned, I'm Daryl Popick, your president of the Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending our International Women's Day event today. International Women's Day is a celebration held annually to recognize the successes and challenges women have in all aspects of life. Today, we have two remarkable women who will share their success stories and communicate how they have succeeded, but just as importantly, how they have overcome barriers in their business and achieved a work-life balance. I want to thank Karen and Jacqueline in advance for your generous offer to present your remarkable stories today for us to learn by. I now would like to introduce Janet Sochatsky, who is the Executive Secretary of our Chamber's Board and is also Chair of our 2022 International Women's Day event. Janet, thank you for your volunteerism and great work organizing today's events. I know this topic is near and dear to your heart, and although we are celebrating today, it is a cause that you embrace throughout the year. Janet, thank you for that, and please proceed with our program.
Thank you, Daryl, for your warm and welcome message and kind introduction. As mentioned, I am Janet Sochatsky, Chair of International Women's Day event, and I'm honored to be here today. I would like to thank Kathy Olson and Lori Fensky for their volunteer help on the committee, as well as Todd Banks and Mike Ivonek at the Chamber. Your assistance is very much appreciated, and I thank you for making this event successful. Today, we celebrate women in our community for our successes, but just as importantly, the challenges women face in business, personal life, and the lessons that we can learn to succeed. This year's campaign is Break the Bias. Imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can break the bias. Individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. We can break the bias in our communities. We can break the bias in our workplaces. We can break the bias in our schools, colleges, and universities. Together, we can all break the bias on International Women's Day and beyond. So let's get started with our first speaker today. It is my pleasure to introduce Karen Schenk. Karen is the founder and CEO of Iconium Media here in Sherwood Park. It's a media and marketing firm that creates effective media solutions, digital strategies, social marketing campaigns, photography, film, online training courses to help organizations accelerate in their missions in Canada, the US, and internationally. Karen helps businesses, governments, and other organizations integrate marketing, communications in today's rapidly changing media landscape. She also serves on many boards of universities, media distribution networks, and nonprofit organizations. Karen earned a Master's of Business Administration in university. She enjoys being on the cutting edge of innovation in her field. Karen is the mother of 2 sons and has a daughter. She has 5 grandchildren, ages 1 to 5. When she's not working, she loves to travel, dabble in interior design, and expand her skills in photography and writing. Thank you for joining us today, Karen. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. It's just an honor to be here today, and I just wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, because I think it's just an incredible opportunity to be a woman in today's time, and just excited to be able to have this conversation with you today. What I'm talking about today is reaching out opportunity is waiting. And when I had a conversation with Todd, he was like, where has your success come from? And it's really been a journey of stepping into it and taking chances and calculated risk. So that's really very near and dear to my heart. So each of us, all people, are surrounded by opportunities and possibilities, and yet we face many obstacles that can break us. And women throughout all of the ages have experienced the reality of this tension, and we fought for equality, and we want to be heard, and we want to be given fair opportunities for our role in society, and not to be hindered because of who we are, but because of what we are capable of. Gender is actually not a qualifier to building a business, and we believe that in ourselves and as we believe in ourselves and surround ourselves with people, we can actually help make this happen. We can't do it alone. We need to be in a network of people that really can help, and often it's our call as a leader to be the one that steps out. And when we embrace equality and that fair opportunity, we can make a huge difference. There's so often fears hold us back. And as we embrace our calling and our giftedness and step into what we love, we can tap into that inner drive and passion. And then we're able to really be unstoppable and to be able to have a tremendous impact on not just ourselves, but the people around us. And I like to really celebrate that our beginning point is clarifying our personal mission. And that's what I did. And I want to tell you a little bit about just my story. I've been in web and media industry since early 2000. It was when we started our web work when it was dial-up, so that was quite an interesting challenge, not using too many photos because of the time it took to load, to just being fully immersed in media and imaging now. I led large teams, and I worked really hard to stay on the cutting edge of technology and communication, and just continued on that trajectory. But then 2015, quite a few things were happening in my life, and I knew it was time for a change. I didn't know really what I was looking for, and I began looking at what's of interest to me, what gets me excited, what am I passionate about. And I began to look at where's, the reality is I wasn't getting younger, and what is the next season of my life going to look like? Do I have a personal mission? What is it? And that's something that's often neglected for us to take time to go through. And I worked with a coach that helped me really define it. And it was just incredibly clear as I began to come up with what is my mission and what do I want to do. And my mission was to create and facilitate media that results in transformed lives. I had little idea what that actually meant, but I began to use that as a foundation for everything I did. Is like, is this going to fit into that parameter and that paradigm? I was eager to get started. I had a lot of experience in communication and media, but I knew absolutely nothing about starting a company. It's great when you have an HR department and a finance department that takes care of everything. And when you're on your own, you don't have that. And I didn't quite know where to begin. And I want to just give a shout out to the Strathcona County Business and Development, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. There was so many resources that I was able to find in that journey, and just being able to take those steps in those early days that I would not have been able to had I not had people to talk to. And that really leads me to my next point, is intentional conversations. We only know what we know, and that's kind of it. We read things, we learn things, but I was talking to a friend and going, I just really don't know, like every single day is a massive learning curve, particularly the first 7 weeks is like CRA, what do I need to do? And I was trying to figure my way through it. And this friend recommended that I have intentional conversations, and suggested I write a list of 10 people that I would be interested in talking to. So I did. I wrote them down, and I'm like, that is an absolute far cry that they would be interested in talking to me. So sent an email and said, I'm going through a time of change, looking at I'm working on starting a business. Is there anything that you might have that I could just pick your brain and have a conversation? Every person said yes. I had incredible conversations with them. And many of them recommended that I speak to someone else. And it was an incredible journey of, I think I ended up having calls with 100 people over a couple of months. And I was forever changed by those conversations. And I continue them to this day. I just asked somebody, hey, just wondering if I could just pick your brain and have a conversation with you. And it ends up being a time where I can encourage them for the influence that they've had. And they often turn around and are encouraging back at me. And so that really helps you think outside of the box of the world that we live in. And so as I began that process, I didn't know exactly what was in store for me. I realized that the magic of being a great leader is that when I can open doors, I actually can help facilitate the dreams of others. And I've had no idea how big that was going to be. And it's so incredibly rewarding. And the doors that I go towards don't just open by themselves. There's no auto doors. It is, you put your hand forward, you step, you lean out, and I make that choice to explore and then investigate, take calculated risk, and then I move on. So in 2015, when I was going through this, I drafted that personal mission, and I began listing who would be some people that I could help. I envisioned myself as a consultant because I didn't have a team and I didn't have the capacity to hire a team. So I called a friend, a colleague actually, and I asked if I could just help her with some strategic planning. And she was out of state in the US. So I flew on my own dime. I flew out there and had some vacation, but also just connected with her and did a strategic planning day. What resulted in those meetings was she connected me with someone else who hired Iconium, which was me at that time, for a very large project. And I said, I don't have filmmakers, designers. I don't have that anymore. And he said, hire them. You've got a budget, put a proposal together, and you're hired. And I was like, what in the world? So I needed a name. I needed a bank account. I needed all these things. And so I contacted my accountant and we began that journey. I went to the bank, set up an account, transferred $1,000 into that account, and I was driving home that day going, I am a business owner. This doesn't feel really glamorous, but I am a business owner, and what is this going to look like? And so I hired some people to work on the project. It was a very short timeline. And so we began investigating studio space. Well, it was very expensive and very hard to get at a moment's notice. So I said to my husband, can I steal our garage? And thus began the garage, which ended up being quite a beautiful little space for our team and ended up being for 3 years. We ended up growing a marketing and media company. Then we moved into a new space, and we're on the second floor, added the first floor, and then this last fall, we moved into a bigger, newer space where we actually have room to facilitate the growing team that we've had. So that was a very interesting journey of just step by step by step, just taking, as these opportunities came our way, is like, do I want to go that road? And, having a project, and I didn't know what the word bootstrapping was. I learned it, and because I didn't want to get into a lot of debt. And so we built what we had and we kept building. And it was very exciting. It was hard. There was, how do you find the right staff? How do you find the right projects? How do you grow from, being a small business to a medium business, and just all the dynamics that are involved in that. And we've been so incredibly supported here in Sherwood Park. And as we are able to work abroad, it's just been incredible that we've been able to bring in the diversity of the people, acting talent, filmmakers, creators, and really grow their dreams as we've been able to facilitate the needs of the clients. And I just found myself pouring so much of myself into the team, the others. And a few years ago, we solidified our mission statement for the company. It was this long, wordy thing that not a single person could remember. And we just made it very simple. Our mission is to accelerate yours. We exist, Iconium Media exists to be the accelerant for your business, your project. And so whether there's a, whether it's adding photography and bringing your office to life in great imagery or doing film or training videos, we really bring one thing, and that's called integrated media. And so it's really pulling together all of the ways that people see and experience you into the right image. And then so that people, as you're clicking through something, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to click on that. What is that? That is beautiful. That's exciting. I want to be part of that. And so every morning we get up and our whole team goes, how can we help further the bottom line of our clients, and how can we make a difference? And it's just been a very beautiful journey as we've seen untold people being helped. There's also a not super well known but very active aspect of Iconium, and that's the charitable side. We have a little division that where we give back. We're involved in Manchai, Peru, in helping build sustainable communities there, helping with gardens. And so we do a lot of work from the media side and communications. We also work actually in Lebanon. We've done some work with that. And it's so rewarding that we have been so privileged and honored to be doing well, and that we can give that back to some of others who are in need and make that difference and have that impact. So for me, it's about stepping towards a dream. It's about taking calculated risks and every day making a difference in my life, in the people's lives around me, in our staff, in helping them grow and love what they do. And then we look at what happened. I'll never forget when the pandemic, that middle of March, which we're right there when this happened 2 years ago. And I remember most of our staff had decided to work from home. I was sitting alone in the whole lower level of the office, and I just went, this is the end. Like, this is over. What now? And what's going to happen? And all of a sudden I got my notepad out and I started writing a list of all of our clients. And I went, how can I help change the messaging? And so I just thought, I'm just going to call them and we're going to commiserate together on how can we be essential in this time. And probably the most interesting one was a fuel company, which again, no one's driving anywhere. There's no little different story from gas than it is today. And I called this person and I said, how can I help you? And I said, let's brainstorm. What do you have? Rentals. And it turns out they had a partnership with Flamin Rentals. And so we put on a whole bunch of campaigns about renting workout gear, and that ended up carrying them through a really, interesting time. So you got a fuel company renting out workout gear and to take to people's homes. And it was just, we had to think outside of the box. And it was so fun and rewarding to be able to have those calls. And so that was in March. Within the next fiscal year, our company doubled, and we are sitting at just basically a 90% increase where we are year to date now from where we were a year ago. And it's just, I don't know why we're so fortunate, and I'm just so thankful that we are, but we are here to serve people. And for us, it's overcoming fear. It's overcoming when there are not resources. Anyone that's around me will know that if they say something doesn't work, I will say, how will it work? Because we really want to look at solutions and have those kind of opportunities. What do? We want to surround ourselves with people and with purpose. We can't do this on our own. And building something great is not something I ever want to do alone. And I remember way back in 2015 when I was alone, that's not how I'm wired. I'm wired to be in a team, to work in community, and to be able to link arms where we can collaborate together. And I love nothing more when we create a design or a product and I'm like, who designed this? And there's such a combined effort and such collaboration that it really doesn't have any one signature. It has a collaborative signature. And that's really where we are stronger, when we can share our ideas and really create together. And so for me as a leader, I have a clear direction of what I want to accomplish. I will pursue it with everything I'm worth, but I do that by surrounding myself with people who are aligned, and it turns work into fun, and then they go and invite people to join us, and there's a huge energy that gets lifted and really a sense of passion. And I'm just an incredibly strong believer that if people work in their giftedness, they're going to do so much better at what they do. I'm not interested in hiring people that want a job. This is not a job. This is where we can actually sit on the same side of the table as every person that we get to work for and with, and we get to create together something beautiful and just really help you shine in a way that we wouldn't be able to do alone. So it's just been very just super rewarding. And just recently we did a survey amongst our team. We did them over several days, and it was really to understand, does our team understand our mission? Are they aligned with the mission? Do they fit within it? And 2 resounding comments came out, and it was interesting because these would probably be my deepest core feelings, is that they exist for purpose and want to make a difference, which is why Iconium is what it is. We're here because we want to make a difference. We want to help others know you and get to know you better. And that's been so amazing. And they also want to work with the people that they like. So that's even interesting as we interview new candidates to come on and join our team, that how do they fit in our culture? And I really need to assess that carefully, because once you have a nice culture and it has a bunch of key points in it, you want to protect it and you want to enhance it and continue to build that out. And so that's been super valuable for our team to be in that process where we do that. So then the other thing that's really important is that we have excellence. It's not an endpoint, it's a path of continued improvement. And I have a friend, he always references the gift of failure, and he's like, what are you learning? How are we learning together? And that we go through that journey of we make a mistake, and guaranteed we will. We make many mistakes, but what do we do with that mistakes? How do we fail forward? And that doesn't mean that we have the opportunity to wreck something, because you don't. You need to, everything that's given to myself personally, I hold with, it's special. I'm a steward of your time, your money. And so how do I navigate that so that I receive it as a gift to be able to work in that capacity? So there's an adventure ahead of all of us, and it's really about stepping forward into it. Difficulties and failures I see as a launch pad to a future. And so the more that I can look at the hard things that I've gone through, and I have, and just some of there were days, an interesting story was, right, as soon as I hired my first 2 people, a client called me and said, sorry, we're putting this project on hold. And I was like, are you kidding me? I just hired 2 people, and this was literally that afternoon. And I mean, every dollar mattered, and it was like, oh my gosh. And I remember driving and just feeling like, well, the worst thing that can happen is I tell them that they don't have a job, which they didn't have one in the morning. So now they're back to not having one. And so it was, I decided not to say anything, and just because I really didn't know how. And I waited a full day, and within the next 24 hours, we had another project come our way, and it was just step by step by step by step, and just going, what is the and I would navigate the stress of some of that risk by going, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? And how will I navigate through that? And I continually calculated that. And it was really interesting, as most often I didn't have to deploy that worst thing, because something came in place, and we were able to grow and move forward. And so we need to be with like-minded people, just encourage you, no matter what your dream is, that it's really modular, take steps, keep moving in that direction, and embrace that calculated risk. I'm not a believer in, risking every single thing I have with the hope of a dream. That just doesn't feel like that's fair to my family. But if I can take calculated risk and go, what am I willing to lose? I find 9 times out of 10, I gain so much more than I ever would lose anything. And so my goal today is really to inspire you to step towards those opportunities that are around you. And as you embrace that calculated risk taking, your fears will subside. Surround yourself with people that believe in you. And as women, we have opportunities that we've never had before. Absolutely, there's attitudes and barriers that come our way. And I've been startled at some of the old school thinking that's still out there. But I call it out. It's like, you know what, I'm not okay with this being, I'm a respectable woman. I don't need to be, those days are gone. We can treat each other with respect, and that we move forward in that capacity. And it's really a beautiful thing. So can you imagine what can happen as you embrace that huge adventure that's ahead of you, as you step into your why? Why do you exist? What do you love to do? Begin with your passion and vision, and begin walking towards that success. And for me, I remember as a young girl at 9 and 10 years old, I was always a communicator. I wanted to create things. I wanted to make things look nice. And here I am years later, not going to give you my age. Here I am years later, I'm able to do that very thing. And it is fuel for your soul when you do what you love with people who also do what they love, for people who love what you do. So that's just a real beautiful place. It's never a place that you land on, but it's a process that you're always embracing and moving forward with. So those are my words. I'm cutting it a little bit shorter because I'd rather have a conversation with you. And one of the things I don't like about speaking in Zoom is you don't get to see what people are feeling and responding. So I'd rather just hear from you, and we can have a little Q&A, and that would be super fun. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Karen, for that incredible presentation. And we do have some time for questions. So if there are any questions from the audience, please raise your virtual hand, or you can feel free to type them in the chat for Karen, and I will read them out loud. And to start, I'll ask a question, actually. Karen, Iconium Media, what does that mean?
Our name?
Yeah.
So I have a fun story. Again, the day that I had to name our company, there was a lot of reasons for it, but it had to happen very fast to be able to sign that contract. And I know what it takes to name a company. It takes weeks, focus groups, all those things. I had 3 hours, and I was like, I don't know. And so at that time, actually, I'll tell you a little more than I did yesterday, Janet, but my son was struggling with extreme post-concussion syndrome, and he was very ill. And that was part of actually, we thought he was going to pass because he had there was just a lot of difficulty that was very, very difficult at that time. And I stopped by his room and I said, I need to name this company. And he said, can you tell me, during this time, is there any historical figure that you could reference that might have some impact? And I was like, what are you talking about? And so anyways, long story short, I left for about an hour. I came back and he had written the word Iconium, and he had gotten that through just some of our conversation. And Iconium means to step out of the box, to be creative and have an impact on humanity. And so it's an ancient city in Turkey, and that I just was like, this is amazing. This is so on point. And so that is what we do. We step out of the box, we're creative, and we have an impact on humanity. And so it was just it's a longer story than that, but it was just very special to have him at that time of him being so sick to help name the company. So that was really neat.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a great story. Are there any other questions, or type in the chat or raise your hand for Karen?
There we go, Todd.
Todd Banks, sorry.
Thanks, Janet. So Karen, you talked about growing the business in your garage,
Yes.
and then you moved to your first storefront, and now you've moved again. And I kind of liken those steps as stairs going up, and you stay on a certain step until the next one kind of gets within reach to step up, but it's a big leap. Can you tell us what those moments were that you knew it was time to move from the garage? It was time to move from your first storefront to your second.
Right. Well, the first thing I'll say what I did wrong, I stayed in our garage a year longer than we should have. And the reason I say that is it stopped being home. And it's so important when you work from home that you still have home. And when you've got 10 young adults running around your house and they're in every room, in any room, it really, as much as it's a gift to be able to save that money, there's a huge cost to it. And so, that's, I think we would have moved earlier had I known how affordable it could have been. There was just the idea that it's going to cost us so much money to go into a new space. And then when we began looking, it was like, oh my gosh, it is not that crazy to get a space that can work for us, with the possibility of growing. And then I part of it's reading your team. When they're walking around outside, having phone calls all the time because there's no space for them to have a phone, then maybe you should be thinking about moving. But also it's signing. This is just maybe a tip, but realtors will be very quick to want you to buy buildings and to sign long leases. And you want to be a little bit careful with that when you're growing, because you don't know where you're growing to. And as much as you have 3 or 4 people stepping into a space, then all of a sudden you're 10 and now you're 16 or 20, that doesn't fit, and that you lose the breathability. And so it's really having an emotional connection with watching how it's affecting your team, and also planning it properly so that you're not in a box that you can't get out of. And so that was really helpful for me to have those very distinct points.
There's a question from Sue Timonson.
There, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
Sorry, I was struggling with the unmute on my phone. Thanks so much, Karen. This has been, what a great story, and I love the way you tell it from start to finish. I want to go right back to your start. So if you had some, if you had a couple of places that you would start for somebody who was interested in starting a new business. So you mentioned a couple of supports through the chamber and then also through the county. What were those? Was that advice kind of where you started? Did you start with a vision and then move to the next? Okay, this is the what, this is the why, and this is the how. I'm kind of stuck on the how.
Absolutely. And so I actually followed when I first started, I was recommended Peter Drucker's book. It's 5 Essential Questions. And we actually use that in our strategic planning with clients, because it's such a simple way to get such deep or not so deep volume of information. And so I can answer those questions in just one page with a few words, or I can write a 50-page document, which I did, where I actually plan it all out and figure out who is our audience, what are their needs, what is my mission. And so so I'm such a believer in starting where you're actually going to start. Like, if it's going to require me writing a 50-page document, probably I won't do it. But if I start with something small and then begin building that out. So I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly how. One of the things I did that helped me, I got a project, and then I would get, I would get like a 50% deposit, and then that would pay my staff team that I would get. And I did not hire full-time staff for probably the first year and a half. I hired project contractors. And then I realized that for me to have to go and get a new project every time I wanted new work, that was going to be a lot of work. And so, we created film, and that was really our starting point. So I realized that people would create these great videos and then didn't have a clue what to do with them. So that's where I brought in my years of experience in marketing, and we began doing marketing strategy with that. And then basically finding a business model that has a recurring factor as well. And so that was how I started in the very beginning days. And I really love to on-ramp people to our team, try them out, come work with us on a project. And then if you fit, and I always say, it's like, you may not like us either, like it may not work both ways. And then if they fit really well, because then it works really good that way. So, and then as we were a little bit more solidified, I think a year and a half in, by the time I even realized what was available through the chamber and through the business development group, and so many resources. And I was like, I would just read anything they had on their website, and had some great inspirational conversations, and I still do, where it's like, hey, we're at a next point. We're ready to expand. Give us some thoughts and feedback, and I'm all ears to listen, because hey, it's a new road and it's a new world that's changing literally by the day. So.
Thank you very much, Sue, for the great question. Are there any other questions for Karen at this time? Oh, Todd?
So Karen, you've done some incredible work for the Chamber of Commerce over the last year. I think you've done 15 videos for us. Where did you find such amazing talent to do those great videos?
Well, one of the things that's over this last year was I think the first time we hired non-first career staff. So we grew them. You find someone that has potential. And I'd say once a business is matured to a certain point, you don't have that luxury anymore like you do in the beginning, where you can basically our barrier of entry for a skilled staff person is much higher than it used to be, because we just don't have the time to train, and we've got so much work going on. But there's just incredible, and I've known this for many years, that Sherwood Park has a real creative field of people. And so it was a lot of young people that came, McEwen has phenomenal design students. U of A has a phenomenal design students. And so I like taking them through a summer internship program where they work with us in the summer, continue on 10 hours a week given during the year, and then they get to the point that they graduate and then they're here full time. So I've actually got 3 people that are currently, one has graduated and 2 others are on that path right now. And so in 3 weeks they'll be here full time, but it's really exciting to grow them into that capacity. And then once you get to a certain level, of course, you begin to attract high level talent. And that's where we're at right now. We have a lot of people that continually, if you have an opening, we want to work with you. So it's really fun.
That's great. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Todd, for the question. Any further questions for Karen at this time?
And I will just even say, if someone wants to have a pick your brain conversation with me, just send me a note. You can just go to iconium.io, our website, and I'd be glad to book a conversation and just, sometimes having that intentional conversation with somebody who's, I don't have answers, but I maybe might have made some mistakes that you don't have to make. Maybe that's where we can start. But yeah, it's just to be encouraged to take that step.
And that's a great point. Actually, you say you started talking with a business coach from the beginning, and then over the course of time, you talked to about 100 different people to get you going, right? And answer some questions. So that's awesome. I
started my MBA probably just maybe 4 months before I started the company. And I asked permission that they allow the building of the company to be my project through the entire journey, and they allowed that. And so everything I did was relevant to the work we were doing. So that was an enormous gift. Even if I would have never gotten the degree, it was the highest level help that I could have gotten.
Wonderful. Todd, you had a question?
Just one more, yes. Karen, can you tell me about your business plan, how you developed it, the importance of it, when you revisit it, stuff like that, is such important things for a business?
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Peter Drucker, that definitely was, I did that first plan. And I did, my coach said to me, and this was before we named the company, he said, I'd like to have you, when we were doing my missions, my personal mission. As I was putting the company together, I let him know that I was doing that. And he said, you have a plan. Now let's go back to what you just wrote, those 50 pages, and let's make alterations. And so I've been continually doing that. I'm actually working with a consultant right now, and we meet a couple times a week. He's also working with our executive director of production. And so we work together on what is our mission? Where do we want to go? What is our key goals? Honestly, it's like when you're on a map and you're going somewhere that you don't know and all you see is just a dot in front of you, you got to zoom out. And it is imperative that you're planning all the time, because there's no way you can grow. You can't foresee what's all going to happen, but it definitely is an absolute essential to be on a planning journey. And way too busy to do it by yourself. Always have somebody that makes it, that you can appoint, that can keep you aware of the planning process.
And that's great information. Yes, revisiting the business plan is very important. Any other questions? Oh, I see one from Glenda. Oh, Glenda just said, thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. Your passion for making a difference is amazing.
Well, it's fuel to my soul when you know what you're doing matters. It's like, I can't imagine, I don't know that I would have the ability to do something that didn't make a difference in people's lives. It's so rewarding, and it just energizing, especially in these times, probably more than ever.
Are there any other questions, or I think would you like to end with anything, Karen, or?
Well, I am just so honored to be sharing the stage, our virtual stage with Jacqueline. I mean, she was one of the first videos that we did for Tourism and Development Department. And I was so inspired by you personally, and just your willingness. I feel like everything I'm saying is things that I kind of learned seeing that you've done the same thing, and just the drive and the confidence to move forward. And I know there's many more of you, and it's just, Sherwood Park is full of amazing women, amazing people. And the more we can find each other and get to know each other, I think we'll all be better together. And I just thank you so much for this time today. It's a real honor. And for anyone that's showing up tonight, look forward to meeting in person. So thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time today. Incredible presentation. And please enjoy the flowers that we sent you in appreciation for your time and your valued experience. So I would now like to introduce our second speaker today, Jacqueline Jacek. People don't disagree with Jacqueline when she says that she has one of the best jobs in the world as a coconista, a chocolate designer. The concept was created when she couldn't decide whether to become a fashion designer or a chocolatier. So she combined the two to create her dream job, launching Jacek Chocolate Couture 13 years ago in the basement of her home in 2009 here in Sherwood Park. Like fashion, Jacek launches seasonal collections that are a treat to both the eyes and the taste buds. All products are crafted ethically, sourced chocolate, including line of bean to bar chocolate made in-house from cacao sourced from Peru, Colombia, Dominican Republic, and Costa Rica. Though they are committed to innovation, artistry, and the best ingredients, their quest is ultimately to spread joy through fine, fashionable chocolate. Jacek is headquartered in Sherwood Park with a partner location in Canmore and 40 retail partners across Canada. Jacek started as a one-woman show, and now as a team of 24 members equally committed to their core values, joy, artistry, teamwork, and excellence. Jacqueline has been chosen as one of the top 10 chocolatiers in North America by Dessert Professional Magazine, the Don Neal Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Strathcona County Business, Global Woman of Vision. She's the recipient of Leaders Award by Business in Edmonton Magazine, Avenue Edmonton's top chocolatier for 2 years in a row, and the Jacek Bean to Bar collection has won medals in international chocolate awards. Welcome, Jacqueline, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Instead of a presentation, I will interview you, and we will take questions from the audience by raising your virtual hand or by using the chat function. So my first question for you, Jacqueline, is what inspired you to develop your business concept?
Awesome. Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Karen, for such a great presentation. I always admire your ability to communicate and how you can speak so eloquently. So tough one to follow up. So how I started my business was really through trying to come up with my mission as well, similar to Karen, of what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted a business that brought people joy. So for me, it really was an exploration of what does joy mean to me? And to me, it's fashion and chocolate, or food, actually. And so I was living in New Zealand at the time, finished university, I was working in my career, and I thought, well, why don't I explore this idea of using chocolate as fashion? It's fantastic because it's actually 4-dimensional versus 3-dimensional like fashion. So I have form, function, color, and the 4th dimension of flavor in chocolate. So I thought, pretty cool concept, probably not going to work, but you know what? There's no harm in starting to learn chocolate online. So that's what I did. I started learning how to make chocolate, which is a very hands-on art, online, and was loving it, you know, and those around me were loving it because they would get all of my creations. So fast forward, I moved back to Canada, and I think it was 2007, and I still had this dream of doing fashionable chocolate, but I did go the career, or continued my career in sales and marketing. And then I was engaged, and you know, my husband and I were talking, you know, and he knew about this dream to do this fashion chocolate concept. And he said, what do we need to do to make that happen? And so within 3 months of that conversation, him and my father had built a commercial kitchen in our home, in our basement. So similar to Karen, I started at home. It was sort of a way to sort of test the concept before really, you know, spending a lot of money, and just, it was a great way to experiment and refine. And so we did that. And then fast forward 13 years, we've grown our facility here in Sherwood Park and have an incredible team, and have made lots of, done a lot of great things. I've made a lot of great mistakes. I had a lot of learning, but I'm definitely still very much on the path to success. I wouldn't, you know, that question of, you know, how have you been successful? I'm not even sure we're there yet, but it is very much a journey for us.
Thank you for that. Second question, what were your biggest fears in launching your business?
Oh gosh. So I'm actually quite risk averse. So the fears were plenty. I always was afraid of running out of money. You hear these entrepreneurial stories of cash management, running out of money, losing your house, like getting pretty extreme. And that's just something that I wasn't willing to experience because I just don't have a high tolerance for risk. So, I used to fear, even hiring people, like, is this going to cost me too much? Sort of every step along the way, and I've grown very organically. There's never been a really big moment in the journey that just kind of like catapulted us. It's always been sort of one step in front of the other. And so every time I'm taking a step, I do deal with imposter syndrome a lot. And I always sort of had a lot of doubt, but I think the thing that alleviated my fear the most is by having great conversations and surrounding myself with people that believed in me and believed in our mission, and really having a team that were hired based on our core values. I think one of the big things that continues to be important in terms of meaning and engagement, and that's sort of what I think fuels growth, is our ability to give back to the community, both through a business perspective and how we source. So our cocoa beans are sourced ethically, which is really important. So the more chocolate we can sell, the more we can support the farmers that we're buying from. But on the flip side, we also give 1% of our top line revenue to community organizations. So we have a couple that we do every year, such as the Sergeant George Meoch Scholarship in memory of one of our fallen heroes here from Sherwood Park, who my husband went to school with. And then with Bulembu, which is an organization in Swaziland, or I guess it's Eswatini now. And so, I think that is sort of what eliminates my fear, is this focus on engagement and how we can really make a difference. And I truly believe that we were meant to open this business in Sherwood Park and in Edmonton area, because I'm not sure it would have worked anywhere else. I think our community has really helped alleviate my fear in taking those next steps by voting with their dollars and supporting us and sharing their stories with us. And so that's made a true difference, because I think our local community truly is open to new things and really wanting to support local businesses, which we've seen through the pandemic.
Yes, that's very true. Third question, how have your priorities changed since you started?
Oh, that's a good one. My priorities changed. Well, I think, when you're starting by yourself, you're hustling, you're doing everything by yourself, from payroll. I mean, Karen, you spoke about this. You don't have an HR department. I'm in production. I'm doing everything. And I think sort of my priorities changed in that I had to start to learn how to lead leaders, which was something that I'm still learning how to do. I have an incredible team of people, and that's where my priority is now, in helping them become better leaders as I become a better leader. And that's the priority of hustling to sell product versus developing your team has been a massive shift for me.
What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome?
Oh my. I think, I'm quite open about my imposter syndrome. I think myself has been like being who I am has been a bit of a problem in my mindset. So dealing with fear of failure has been a really big deal for me. And one of the ways I've overcome that is through mentorship. So I actually had a mentor who I was very grateful to have for a year, who ran a very successful construction company that was returning $1 billion a year. So a massive company, who gave me some of this time. And to me, I think one of the biggest things that helped me grow through that glass ceiling I had set for myself, nobody else had set this for me, it was me doing it to myself, was because, I kept saying, we'll never be a big company, we'll never be a big company, and not necessarily wanting to, but it just, this self-limiting belief. And he said, okay, next month, you're going to show up to our mentorship meeting, and you're going to present to me how in 5 years, Jacek will be a $30 million company. Not that that's what I want to do, but what he was trying to do was really push me to think differently. And it was incredible. I was very humbled that he'd meet with me every month. So I was very always wanting to perform and do my best, especially when meeting with him. So I did present a plan to get to $30 million in 5 years. I don't want to do that. but it is absolutely possible if I did. And that really helped me overcome my fear. Was actually, I'm here. He told me to get here, but you know what? I really can get here quite accessibly. So that was pretty cool.
That is great. That's a great experience. So you mentioned this earlier. Has your definition of success changed?
Yeah, it really has. Like, I've been inspired by so many people. But for me, success now is really about having a plan. Seeing it happen is always great. It's the amount that we're able to give back to the community every year. Like when I was starting my business, I knew I always wanted supply chain to be ethical and that we can contribute to the world through good ethical business. But I feel like success is now more in what we can give back versus sort of what we're building. And success is also seeing your team members develop as well. So it becomes, it starts, at the beginning, I'll completely vulnerable and truthful. It was a lot about me and where I wanted my career to go and what I want to do and do this fashion thing, but it's actually really evolved. It's success being shared by many people.
Very cool. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to just talk about is I remember seeing a video of you traveling to meet some of your suppliers and the farmers and where you get your cacao beans from, I think. Can you share some of that experience with us and what would be?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where my heart is doing these trips. So when I launched Jacek, we were very much just a chocolatier. So just so the industry of chocolate is a little bit confusing to people. So to use a fashion analogy, a chocolate maker is the person who makes the chocolate from the cocoa bean. So they're essentially the fabric maker. The chocolatier is the dressmaker. They will take the chocolate from the fabric maker or the chocolate maker and create the final piece. So when Jacek first started in the basement, we were just essentially the dressmaker. We were finished using, we purchased the chocolate and create the product, which is fantastic. It's the art side of it. But about 5, 6, even 7 years ago, I can't remember the year anymore, I thought, well, if we're truly about joy, we really need to have relationships across the supply chain. We're buying ethical chocolate, but we don't hold any of those relationships. And I don't feel like we're directly impacting them. So I hired a chocolate maker and we developed a whole chocolate making program within Jacek where we were bringing in the beans and starting to create the fabric in-house. Now, to this day, that's still only 20% of what we do. We still buy 80%. It's a French chocolate called Valrhona, one of the best in the world, and ethically sourced as well. So it's still 80% of what we do, but we're really trying to grow this 20% of the bean to bar where I do travel to origin, I meet the farmers, I hear their stories and they are incredible. And that is what fuels, that's what fuels me. And I that's the side of the business that I feel like there's so much opportunity to impact the world through ethical business. It's not even just handing over the money, but if we can buy our cacao at higher than market prices for good quality cacao and impact those communities through good business, I think it's win-win for everyone. And the opportunity for chocolate to transform is incredible. For example, I'll give you one example. I mean, I have so many stories around this, but in Colombia, when I was there, I met with a family and had lunch at their farm, and they were telling me how cacao and chocolate makers and consumers who are willing to pay more now for chocolate to make sure that the farmers can make more money has impacted them so much that they can move away from growing cocaine to chocolate. So moving away from illicit substances to actually doing something legal. They have to do, and there's no judgment. If they have to grow illicit substances to feed their families, I'm not there to judge. But how cool is it if we can actually make chocolate viable for sustaining these families? So yes, sorry, I do go to Origin. I kind of went in a roundabout way there. So I've been to the Dominican Republic. Colombia is the most recent, as well as Costa Rica, where we have a direct relationship and they're doing some really cool work with women in farming. And then we were supposed to go to Peru in June 2020, but the pandemic stopped that one. So that's up next.
That's a great story. I was going to ask you about the bean to bar concept, so thank you. That was one of my questions. How do you find balance between your business, your career, and your personal life?
Okay, so those who've heard me speak before know that I am a big proponent of this, and it's the power of saying no kindly. So I have a lot of things I want to achieve, and I also want to respect my time with my family. So I have learned to say, and I don't know if anyone's read Essentialism, but that is sort of a principle that I live by all the time. And it's essentially, we get requests, there's no shortage of opportunity. There's so much opportunity, but we really need to understand our path and what we're trying to achieve and where things that align to our values to make sure that we're spending our time on the right things. And so the idea is, if we're asked to do something, or if we're asked to be a part of something, if it's not a heck yeah, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. And it doesn't mean no forever, it just means no for now. And there's such a kind way of doing that. But for me, that's helped me find balance, is really understanding where I want to spend my time. I have a young family, and just prioritizing those things by really understanding what's a hell yeah and what's potentially a no, not for now, maybe later.
That's great. Thank you for that. That's great information.
And I feel like coming out of this pandemic, I don't know if anyone's like me, but I feel like I've had 2 years of pretty quiet. Like I've got a lot of hells yeah ready to go. But in the last week, it's like, oh my goodness, like I need to start remind myself that it's okay to, start saying no, not right now, scheduling for later, because I feel like there's a lot of great energy again, where there's going to be a ton of opportunity. I'm optimistic.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And you did touch on this, but how do you find creative ways to ensure that you can be effective and efficient in achieving your goals?
So I love learning. I don't know if it's ultimately super creative, but I find, when I probably first 3 years of my business, I joined EO Accelerator, which entrepreneurs organization. And so they're an organization that really helps coach and grow entrepreneurs. And the Accelerator program is for those that don't qualify into the formal program. And that really helped me figure out time management and creative ways to get things done without, just to get it done. Otherwise, you'll never move the needle, right? So EO Accelerator was a massive thing for me. I wrote this one down because it's a hard one. Oh, vacation. So if I'm busy with the right thing, I never feel like I'm burning out. So for me, it's no longer about time management, it's about energy management. And we talk a lot about that with our team as well, that's a great idea. How much energy is it going to take? And is it the best use of our energy versus looking at time as quite a finite thing? Sometimes if we do the right things, it creates energy. So you can never create more time, but you can create more energy. So you get more done. And then when I am on vacation, so I do like to pile a lot on, but when I'm on vacation, I literally unplug. So I am not contactable. My team knows where the insurance is for if anything was to burn down. We are not super contactable, because I think that's really important for recharging batteries. And also the added benefit of leaving, we actually left for a month in 2019 and unplugged, is finding out how incredible your team is. I was expecting to find holes, but they thrived without us, which is a bit of a check. It was like, oh my goodness, they don't even need us. And so that was a really cool experience. And it's a good experience to see where maybe there are holes in your business or opportunities for improvement, to actually leave and allow your team to lead.
Yes, it's important to have a great team behind you. Thank you so much for that. So you mentioned travel. What are your other hobbies?
Oh, I have no shortage of hobbies. So a lot of them came back through the pandemic, because I had the time, less, events to attend and things like that. So I always loved sewing and designing. So I started sewing and designing. And again, my husband built a sewing and design room in our bonus room. And so that's something I've really started doing a lot of. And it just helps me be creative. And actually, my first business was when I was 11. It was sewing and designing hats, and I used to sell them at school and at ski hills. So it kind of was bringing myself back to that my 11-year-old self in my business called Jack's Hats. And so that's a big one. Traveling is something we miss tremendously. So we're looking forward to getting the opportunity to travel again. I love rucking, which is walking with a heavy backpack. So yeah, I have lots of hobbies, but most of them creative. I love food. I love hosting. I love those kind of things. So
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm just, we're at a point now where we can, if there's questions from the audience for Jacqueline, if you'd like to raise your virtual hand or in chat. I see that there are some in chat here. Karen says, thank you so much. Love that. Hell yeah or no. Andrea, same thing. Hell yeah, love that. Sue Timmons liked your energy management. It's a great way to look at it. Shane Olson mentions he loves seeing your chocolate bars and Sobeys.
mm-hmm.
The Frank is his favorite. Maria, I do the same thing, unplug when away. Are there any other questions? Oh, I see one, sorry. Sue has a question for you.
There you are. Thanks, Jacqueline. I guess I love the idea of the base idea of your business model in combining chocolate and who doesn't love chocolate and fashion, who doesn't love fashion, and putting those both together. And I love the way you put together collections throughout the year. So I just wondered what the inspiration was for a lot of those collections. Where does that come from? Is that a group one, or is that led by you, or how do you guys come up with those?
So I totally believe the creative process is best with multiple minds, as many minds as possible. I think that's where our team has a lot of fun. So it's definitely not me. It is a whole team effort. And so it's right from the concepts and muses and different ideas for collections down to flavors, looks of flavors is all done by the team. So it's a creative process. It takes about 6 months per collection. And so actually this latest collection we just launched for spring 2022. The question I asked the team was, what do you imagine the future of chocolate to be? And so that was the inspiration for this collection. So we all agreed we want it to be more global, we want it to be more ethical. And we also want, well, this was mine, is I wanted to showcase the people who make the chocolates. I feel so many times, like here I am speaking and I have an incredible team working hard right now. They're actually the stars of the collection. So we did a big editorial photo shoot in black and white, them working. And so we're going to be launching that shortly just to show the true stars of the collection. So I think the creative part of our business is something that's very much shared, and the fun part. So yeah, I can't imagine us not doing collections, and there's never, I think we get asked a lot, are we going to run out of ideas? And it's literally impossible.
Victoria has a question.
So hi, Jacqueline. This is your friend in chocolate, Victoria from Cocoa Beantown on our Colombia trip. How are you?
Oh my goodness! How are you? So you can even talk about Colombia with me.
I was picturing, as you told the story, exactly where we were. It's nice to see you, and greetings from Boston. Yeah, it's so nice to see it. You doing well. I have kind of a two-parter. I think all of us small business owners in any industry have had a lot of things that we've gone through the past couple years, but certainly over the time that you've been in business, with doing something that has such a specific point of view. I wonder if there has been something that along your path has completely taken you by surprise that you've been able to turn into a great success. And on the same regard, has there been anything that has taken you by surprise, but maybe now looking back, you wish you could have handled it differently?
Oh, tough questions, of course.
I know you can handle it. That's why I asked you.
Of course. Oh, no, I love it. So things that have taken me aback. So, okay, for example, I'm going to use the same product for both sides of this equation. So our advent calendar last year, completely blew us out of the water by surprise. We sold out in 47 hours. Usually takes us, they do sell out, but not like that. So completely not planned. I mean, we'd hope they sell out, but not that quickly. So that blew us out of the water. And on the flip side of that, things that haven't worked, Victoria?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's lots of those. Collections, for example.
Or something that looking back, you now realize you probably could have handled it to get better, to get to a better point with it.
For sure. I think I'll go back to another Advent calendar example is probably 8 years ago. And I still call it Advent Apocalypse. We had launched I think it was our second or third Advent calendar, and the team had executed perfectly. And we had launched, half of them had gone out to market. And then one of our customers had cheated and tasted one of the chocolates, and the packaging had off-gassed onto them. So the chocolates tasted like chemical. Mm-hmm. So they weren't unsafe to eat, but obviously you didn't want to eat them. So I did a voluntary recall. And I cried so hard over this because it could have actually sunk us. Just for the amount of investment that had gone into this product. And I think, like, fast forward, what I would tell myself then is to have a little more trust. The community around and against us, I was very open. And I think I would have told myself that I had made the right decision, because when I got that call from that customer, I didn't know if it was worth sinking my business or being completely honest. And I always choose honesty. And so I reached out to all the customers that have bought one to return it, and we'd refund them. And I would tell myself then, so now I would tell myself then to always be honest and do the right thing, because your customers will support you, and that's part of building a brand.
I love that. I think, and it's interesting that in both respects, they had to deal with a certain type of product that you offer at a certain time of year that is even a more elevated time for sales. So that heightened stress and time limits, as you said.
You understand this business. Yeah. I mean, we do 50% of our revenue in 6 weeks, right, of the year. So
yeah, and always in support of, the people like yourself who work in this, who are also keen on educating your customers. And I think that's why honesty is something that's so easy for you to access, is because if you are regularly, from the perspective of let's provide information, that's the foundation of honesty, as it was. So thank you.
And that was my big lesson. That's a great question. So thank you so much. It's so nice to hear from you.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad everything's doing well through this.
Thank you. And you too.
Thank you, Victoria. That was a great question. Okay. Are there any other questions? Todd has a question for you, Jacqueline.
Sure.
Hey, Jacqueline. You had mentioned in your bio that you are now distributing to 40 retail suppliers. That must have been a little bit of work to acquire them, but also the distribution and supply chain to get the product out on a timely basis.
Do you know what the honest thing is? Because I'm going to be honest, is we actually have never done outbound sales until now. We're just starting to put a program together where we're going to actually have a program for outbound selling. It's all been inbound. So we've been very lucky from that respect, and the logistics were relatively okay, easy enough to work out. But we have now, so my husband joined the business 3 years ago and has created incredible efficiencies in our production. And so now we have all this amazing capacity that we can sell. And so we're actually going to start focusing less on wholesale, but more on corporate. And we're actually going to start actively putting a plan together, or we have put a plan together to outbound sell now. So we were very blessed that we'd built a strong brand, and those brands, those other stores and vendors came to us wanting to sell our stuff. I would say brand first. And actually I can say that I really did put brand first when I started the business in the basement. I had $14,000 to spend in starting this business, and I spent $7,000 of it on my brand, and the other $7,000 on inventory, building up the kitchen, and just legal stuff. So I really did spend half of my budget on brand.
That's great information. Thank you. There's a note in the chat here from Glenda. She says, thank you very much, Jacqueline, for your energy and passion is infectious. Thank you for creating the chocolate collection in George's memory.
Of course, Glenda, it's my privilege really to work with his family who helped me develop the collection.
Are there any other questions for Jacqueline at this time or comments? I think that's it. Thank you so much for the information, Jacqueline. That was a
Well,
wonderful.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It was great information. Your story is incredible. I hope you enjoyed the flowers that you received and appreciation for your time and value.
Of course, they're absolutely beautiful.
So I'm going to end today's talk with a thank you again to both Karen and Jacqueline for your time and your valuable insights. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I'd like to invite you to our International Women's Day Mixer tonight at the 4 Points Hotel from 5 to 7 p.m. This is sponsored by RBC Sherwood Park. There will be door prizes and free appies. There's a special drink that is available for Women's International Day, and a portion of the proceeds will go towards a safe place located here in Sherwood Park. Thank you again to everyone for joining us, and look forward to seeing you tonight at tonight's event.